Thank you all. You're the brave ones, the ones who stay for the last presentation of the day and resist the temptation of the beer. So that's cool for us. Thanks a lot for being here.
There are beers?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Please, don't leave me. So we're here today to talk about smartwatches and give you a little bit of landscape about, a bird's eye view of the landscape of the smartwatches, I'd say. Before we start, just a little survey to know a little bit more about you guys. So who owns a smartwatch? 15 people about. That's cool.
Sorry.
Yeah, me too. Forgot. No, I don't own one. Who is an Android developer in the room? Okay, about the same, but not the same guys. Interesting. Who is an iOS developer? I know it's a Java conference, don't feel dirty, guys. Okay. Who is a Pebble developer? It's amazing, we always lose those.
Pebble what?
Pebble what? Who is a Rolex developer?
Rolex?
Okay, that's what I thought. Who has already written a smartwatch app?
I think.
Quite a few, nice, me too. Who is a member of the Night's Watch? You're in the wrong room.
There.
You know nothing, Jon Snow. Anyway, a few words about us. So I've been a Java developer for about 10 years now, iOS developer for 5 years. Actually, I wrote the first Devoxx schedule app back in the days. Woo! And I also wrote a couple of Pebble apps, so just in case we have some Pebblers. I was a proud owner of one of the first TikTok lunatics. You know these boxes where you could actually put an iPod Nano on your arm? Yeah, that one.
2 guys.
And I'm currently VP of Engineering for Take It Easy, by the way. So it's the fastest growing startup in Belgium. And by the way, we are hiring. So if you're looking for a job, then come to me at the end. Thanks. And Saeed.
So my name is Saeed, as you can see it in the slide. Sorry. Oh, connected.
Disconnection?
Yeah. I'm a developer since 1992. You remember the screen were green and amber. And I'm mainly an agile coach and trainer. I stick some post-it on the wall. I'm a Devoxx for Kids helper, trainer, so I provide some labs on Sphero, Mindstorms, and Code Combat. Who knows Devoxx for Kids? I'm sure everyone, yeah. And I have some side projects just to be, just to not lose the technology reality. I do some mobile development, such this application that we are going to show you, Smartwatch. And I have to mention it because I'm obliged to do that. I'm a husband and a proud father of 3 kids, Nora, Ryan, and Jenna. And Ryan is also a trainer for the Devoxx for Kids.
So yeah, just a little disclaimer, we are not related to Google, Apple, or Pebble in any way. We're just curious developers and blah, blah, blah. And if you have any questions, please talk to our lawyer.
Yeah. He's in jail, no? Oh, okay.
So, I'm sure if you're here, you're not some of those guys who think that smartwatches are just for, gadgets for geeks, right? No, it's more than that. You know it. If you don't, we'll show you why it's interesting to develop for smartwatches, not just for, kid, come pick me up. Not that one. So, a few interesting features about the platform before we dive into the differences between those platforms. First, the glanceable aspect. So it's very important on a watch to consider that it's not a mini phone on your arm. It's actually more complicated than that. And you have to take into account that a watch is not supposed to be looked at for more than a few seconds. And you have to take that into account in your design. It's only 2 or 3 seconds at a time. And then people will forget about it. If you force them to raise their arm more than that, you will have problems and people will get in hospitals and so on. So that's not what you want. Another interesting factor, they are all full of sensors. And it's not just like sensors in your phone. It's not just GPS, accelerometer, and all that in your phone, because those sensors are on your user's arm at all times. So there are plenty of things that you can do knowing that. You have a heart rate monitor that you don't have on a phone, of course, because it doesn't make any sense. You have, plenty of sensors that are there all the time and that you can take advantage of in terms of not only data, but also user interaction. They integrate very well in the Internet of Things, which is all the rage right now. Well, at least it has been at some point. And for example, there is an app to switch off the lights in your house or to change the color or anything. Okay, this is very geeky, but it works. And another thing that's also very important, they're notification driven. So it's not something that you, you can develop apps that you actually have to launch and use and browse and so on. But most of the most interesting apps on smartwatches are the ones that allow you to react to notifications. So for example, you receive a message and you want to reply quickly or know who it is or whatever. If you receive a meeting, you want to accept, meeting invite, you want to accept or reject the meeting, something like that. And for example, there is also a very well-known example on the Apple Watch of a health app for doctors, and physicians can actually see the heart monitor results and so on of their patient directly in the notification. Right. So you can do some pre-advanced stuff.
Dr. House is using a smartwatch.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, it's a lupus. Yeah.
It's a lupus. It is a small screen, which may appear as a constraint, but is actually pretty interesting. It forces you to be creative and to be very, very concise in the way you design in display information, because you cannot install this kind of things on
Windows
on
95.
Yeah. The interactions are also completely original. Of course, you have a touch screen, but you should not use it too much because when your finger is on the screen, then it takes pretty much the entire space and it clutters the view and so on. So you're better off using all the user interface elements that you have. User interaction elements. For example, on the Apple Watch, there is the digital crown on the side. There are the buttons. You can use vibration. You can use plenty of things, and we'll go over that. And also, it's like a handkerchief, like a toothbrush, like the thing in Inception. It's not something that you let other people use. It's just the owner of the watch that's going to use it. And it's really interesting what you can do knowing that. So today we'll go over a little bit of, as I said, a bird's eye view of the landscape of smartwatches. There are a lot of platforms around. Probably the most recent one is the Tizen platform from Samsung, but it's still very marginal and only a few phones and watches support it. So we'll focus on the most mainstream platform, I guess. That's the Apple Watch, the Android Wear, and a little bit about the Pebble, even though I think not a lot of you will be interested. But anyway. It's good to know that there are those platforms.
Samsung will not agree with us. They have a booth.
Yeah, of course. Is there anybody from Samsung? Sorry. So let's talk about the IDE, because after all, we are in a room of developers, right? So IDEs for the Apple Watch. Well, it's the same as for iOS apps. It's Xcode. There are alternatives like AppCode from JetBrains, for example, but it doesn't have any Apple Watch support for now, so it only works for iPhones, actually, for iOS apps. So in Xcode, you have an emulator, you have a palette of components made specifically for the watch. You have code editors, refactorings, all that, Git support, integration. So it's a pretty powerful IDE, even though it's still lagging behind in some respects, especially with refactorings, actually. But yeah, it's there and it's complete.
Well, for Android Wear, we have Android Studio. Who already used Android Studio? Yeah,
okay, the Android developers in the room, of course.
Everyone, what it is. So with Android Studio, of course, you can create Android application and also Android Wear application. So the learning curve is really fast. What is missing on Android Studio is the layout editor, the widget that you have to use for the smartwatch are not included in the palette. And I think that on Android Studio, they have to improve the way to I will say deploy and debug the application between your phone and your smartwatch, because you have to to play with the Android debugger, command line, and to forward some ports, etc. It's really.
I'll show you that afterwards.
Yeah, we'll show you.
And so, if you would like to try, so that's what we wanted to say.
Exactly. ADB minus D forward TCP blah 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 in order to deploy and to test your application if you use your real phone device and Android Wear emulator.
No, I'm just joking because on Xcode it's just
it's fully integrated,
iPhone emulator, watch emulator. They're all connected without any of this hassle. So in that regard, Xcode is pretty easy to use.
Yeah. So who is using Eclipse for Android development? Okay. So you have to know that Google tried to promote Android Studio, and Google is leading the development of ADT, Android Development Tools. Anyway, on Eclipse, there is a project called And More, and this project is intended to focus on Android development. So
okay, so it's still an option, even though it's not really supported for the future, I'd say. For Pebble, well, it's kind of different. It's all C development, so all you need is a text editor and a console, basically. You have all the tools in the command line, but there is something called Cloud Pebble that allows you to create your projects and edit your files directly in a cloud environment. And actually, as you can see on the upper left, you even have an emulator directly in the browser. So kudos to them, it's pretty advanced stuff. But it's still C code, so it kind of ruins the party. Anyway, in terms of development cycle, so on the Apple Watch, as we say, it's pretty easy when you start a new project with the Apple Watch kind. You get pre-configured emulators. All you need to do is to select the Apple Watch scheme to say, okay, I want to run my watch app. You have to select your emulator configuration, and you can add as many combinations as you want, and you run, and that's it. And you can actually launch a debugger on both the iPhone emulator and the watch emulator, and for example, if you have some communication going on between the two, you can see the messages, the logs, and so on for both. So it's pretty interesting and pretty powerful.
And do you have to install some libraries to?
Nothing. When you install Xcode, it comes with the SDK. It comes with all the libraries pre-installed.
It's too easy. For Android, you have to install Android Wear on your phone in order to pair your smartwatch. You have to create the Wear emulator, and we recommend that you create emulator for different form factors: round, square, and round chin. We'll see that in few slides. And you have to play with the Android debug bridge just to ensure that your phone can communicate with your smartwatch. You have to pair, of course, your phone with your watch, and you have to deploy the application on both the watch and the phone.
And so you have to use a physical phone with the software emulator.
You can try to use a phone emulator with Android Wear emulator, but you have to play again with the ADB commands.
It doesn't come for free.
No.
Well, on Pebble, as I said, it's pretty easy. If all you need is the Pebble app itself, then you can just use Cloud Pebble, for example, or you can use the command line if you're really in a geeky mood. If you want to communicate between the watch and the iPhone, you have the Pebble app on your iPhone, or your Android, by the way, it works with both. And you can just enable communication with Cloud Pebble, and it does the rest. And if you want to communicate with the phone, actually it comes from the web to your phone. It's very impressive stuff. Anyway. Let's talk about the available watches on both platforms. For Apple, it's pretty simple. There are two watches right now. Two form factors and two. Of course, there are plenty of combinations. You can have the gold one, goes from 450 euros to 16,000 euros, I think. But they all have the same resolution. They all have the same capabilities. It's just how rich you are, and that's the only difference. It's just a mark of how rich you are. Anyway. So the resolution is 312 312 by 320 on the 42 millimeters, and 272 by 340 on the 38 millimeters, and that's all there is.
Yeah, for Android Wear, you have only 2 models. Huh? We have plenty of models. Welcome fragmentation. And we have round, square, almost round. And yeah.
It's amazing because we talked about it earlier, and we noticed that there were only 6 or 7 manufacturers doing Android Watch right now, Android watches. And just those 6 or 7 could not agree on one form factor. They had to do 3 different ones.
Yeah. So this is the form factors that we have, and I love the last one, round chin, the flat tire design. But it's a beautiful watch, the Moto 360. And yes, maybe even if you develop an application on a square watch, you are not sure that it will work in the all square watch, because it depends on the resolution, the density, etc. So it can be a huge challenge. But anyway, we have the choice.
You have a choice when you have only, I don't know, a few 100,000 devices on the market. That's a very good idea to give that much of a choice. Anyway. For the Pebble, there are 5 models right now. They all share the same resolution. The only main difference, I'd say, between the classic steel on one side and the time steel on the other side is the color. And it's actually very limited number of colors, so it's not a big deal. They just added the time round, which adds the same kind of problems that we have with the round versus square form factors on Android Wear. You still have to customize your designs. Even the menus tend to change because they want to do something fancy. Anyway, the SDK for the round is still in beta. So yeah, you get some level of fragmentation, but not too much. And yeah, the old models are only black and white, so it simplifies design quite somewhat. And yeah, the resolution is the same for all the square version, 144 by 168, so it's a little smaller than all the Retina screens that you have on those. So let's talk about compatibility. For Android Wear, what can we do?
For Android Wear, you need to have a phone with Android 4.3 or higher. And you can also use an iPhone for that. So you can pair your your Android Wear watch with your iPhone. But you will receive some notification, but today it's really limited. And it's not working with all Android Wear watches. You have to buy a LG Urbane or Moto 360 second edition, or the latest one, the Tag, that was released a few days ago.
1,600 euros.
Yay! And for Android
for
the Apple Watch,
for the Apple Watch, well, it's simple. It only works with iPhone.
That's it.
Other questions? No. And for Pebble, it's more. It's a little richer than that, because you can actually pair a Pebble with any smartphone. I mean, any mainstream smartphone, Android or iOS. And they even have SDKs for both platforms if you want to integrate your Pebble app with a native app to make them communicate with one another. But if you don't want that, you can also use just the Pebble app to communicate, and I'll show you later what that means. So that's probably one of the most interesting aspects of this platform, is that when you do a Pebble app, you can go, you can reach all the smartphone owners. So let's talk about inputs and outputs. As we say, it's pretty original on smartwatches, and it's good to take them all into account. On the Apple Watch, you have the gestures, of course. So that means the screen is a all touch screen, so you can touch it and do some things like that. So it's very nice, because at the end of the day, you have plenty of greasy traces on your screen, and you can't read time anymore. But okay. You have the force touch. So I'm just going to show you a little bit here. For example, if I just tap, no, sorry, I forgot the video. There we go. So if I just tap on the screen, I launch an action. But if I tap strongly, I launch another one. So here it's to customize the watch face, for example. And basically the force touch is used mostly for context menu. That's the main function of it. So just a way for them to avoid having yet another button around the watch. But you do have also the digital crown on the side that can be used in application to scroll through lists instead of having to do swipes on your screen. And you can also click it. And there is a side button to click, but that's mostly a home button. I mean, to come back, that's the equivalent of the big home button on your phone. You also have the Taptic engine, that's more of an output. The reason I mention it is because it's actually a little richer than the usual vibrator that you're used to. You know, the that you forget when it's on your side table when you sleep. Anyway, here it's really discrete and it's more sophisticated. You can have some really advanced patterns that you can recognize. For example, when you launch navigation, you can actually detect when it says up or down on the watch. So that's some things that you can use as well. And it has a microphone and a speaker, so if you want to use sound or give it orders, or, I mean, for text input, it can be used. So that's really nice. And amongst the other things that you can also use accelerometer to detect movements in the watch. And it has a heart rate monitor beside. By the way, funny thing is that this heart rate monitor is also used to authenticate you. So as soon as you remove the watch, the sensor detects that the watch is not on your arm anymore, and it may be in an unsafe territory, so it locks the watch.
Or you're dead.
Or you're dead. That's also another option. And then it doesn't call your physician, because who cares? There's a watch to be taken. So. And it has NFC. The reason I put it in brackets is because we can't use it anymore yet. Sorry, there is no API for that, but you can already use some applications to pay for some things. You know, with contactless payments, you can use it to open doors in certain Hilton hotels. So yeah, but someday we'll be able to access that and use it for our own apps.
Mm-hmm. For Android Wear, we have a lot of features. We have a touch screen, and it's really useful. We have check moves. This is something you can, by movement, you can swipe application, you can change features, etc. So
like you have Parkinson's.
And you have a button that you use as a button.
That you can press or not press.
Yeah. It's not a wheel, it's a button. You have the ambient mode, so it's really useful. No, it's serious, it's useful. You can hide your watch, and your watch can enter in ambient mode. So why not? You have a microphone, you can say, okay, Google, bring me a beer. You have the heart rate monitor, the same, I think, that Apple, but cheapest way. You have gyroscope, accelerometer, compass, barometer. I don't know why you have to use that. And NFC and GPS, it depends the model. For example, NFC and GPS is provided by the Sony Smartwatch 3, but not by the LG Urban. And due to the fragmentation, the risk is to develop an application that requires some features. So to ensure that the feature is provided by your watch, thanks the API, you can use a method that will tell you if the GPS is provided or not. So you have to use this method.
And on the Pebble, you have a non-touch screen, so you have a screen, that's cool. It's an e-ink screen, so it's the pretty low resolution, and it doesn't have a lot of colors when it has some. And you have 4 buttons, 3 on the right side and 1 on the left side, so that's the cancel, the up, down, and OK buttons, basically. You have a vibrator, okay, that can be useful, and you have a microphone in the latest version, so in the Pebble Time, I think, and the Pebble Time Round, you have a microphone that you can start to integrate to use some voice control or something. And that's pretty much it. So let's talk about design principles, because they don't have the same ones, of course. It would be too easy. For Apple, I mean, design is kind of their core business somehow. So you have the human interface guidelines, the same kind of documents that you have for the iPhone. You have another document for the Apple Watch, And they really insist on three key principles. The first one is lightweight interactions, so everything should be only a few seconds, and when I say a few seconds, it's really 2 or 3 seconds max. So all the interactions should be very efficient, and all the information that is displayed must be carefully selected so that you don't force people to, okay, where is the information I'm looking for? So this is really important. The second principle is holistic design. So that's a principle that says that you should take into account the entirety of the platform, all the inputs and outputs that you have at your disposal to design your apps, and not just the screen and the touch like you would do on a phone. So it's really important to integrate like the vibration, the digital crown, the force touch, and all that. Just the goal for the watch was to blur the limits between software and hardware. So that's kind of their thing. The last principle is personal communication. I'm not totally sold on that one, but it's for them, the Apple Watch is really a personal communication device. So they have all these things where you can send drawings of your on your watch to your friend, and we all know what people draw first, right? You can send your heart rate to your loved ones. Okay, very interesting. But yeah, anything that you can build into your app to make the communication with others more powerful is favored, I'd say. What about Android?
So for Android, we have what we say the context stream. So the context stream is a list of vertical cards. Each time an application has to warn you about an information. So in 15 minutes, you have to turn right, or there is a bar on the left side, etc. You will receive an information. This information will be pushed in the context stream. You will have to navigate through the different context stream. It's similar to Google Now. If you don't find the information, you can ask Google to find this information. This is the notion of cue cards. For example, Google Beam Me Up. I'm not sure that it will work. The notion of Glanceable, of course, it's providing the minimal information for the user. And the zero or low interaction. That means that on your cards you can put some action button that will launch a specific activity on your watch or on your phone. On Pebble?
So Pebble has some guidelines and patterns, but those are mostly patterns. They didn't really theorize too much on that. So you have the notion of cards that you can use to display information that is really relevant. You have the idea that you should use lists with menus to display information, array information, I would say. And this is easier to browse with the side buttons because you have the up and down button, and when you found the correct selection, you click OK. So there's the notion of focus also, by the way. You have to use the action bar. Once again, it's not a touch screen, so you have to use the button on the side, and there are special components to help you do that. You can prompt user action on the phone. So, for example, if you need to communicate something with the phone, you need to launch the application on the phone to do something. You can prompt that with special components as well. The time and relevant data can be shown in the status bar. So there's a status bar like on a phone. And you can show alerts and get decisions with the model windows. I won't go into details about that. Mm-hmm. And yeah, you can use vibrations and haptic feedback, but it's much less rich than on the Apple Watch, of course. So on all those platforms, you can develop different kinds of apps. It's not just the main app like you might be used to. On the Apple Watch, the first kind of apps that you can do is just a full-on app that you can launch from the launch screen. I can show you real quick. So here I've done a little bit of cleaning up. I don't have that many, but you can see all of them with just zooming with the digital crown. So you can launch an app like that, but it's, as I said, it's not the primary way that people are going to interact with your app. The second way is by using custom notifications. So of course, if you don't do anything, all the notifications that are sent to your phone are going to be sent to your watch as well, but with the default layout. If you want to customize it, add some custom actions for it, you can do that as well. Do some custom notifications, and there's the notion of a glance. So once again, I'm going to show you what it is. If you go, from the main watch face, if you go just up with your finger, for example, there is this glance that I can use to launch my application, but also just to display quick information, and I have plenty of such widgets if you want to display some key elements. And that is also something that you can use to show quick information and doesn't force your user to enter your app. And the last one, and I think that's one of the most interesting ones, is the complications. So I know that name is not perfectly chosen. It's kind of confusing, but it comes from the world of real mechanic watches, where those little thingies on the frame are called complications because they complicate the mechanism. Here, of course, it's just software, so it doesn't really complicate anything. But the really interesting thing here on the screenshot, you can see time travel is activated, so I can show you. If you go to the main watch face and you start to play with the watch, you can see that the time goes by and all the complications on the screen will adapt as I move in time. So here you see the temperature has gone down and so on. So you can sort of travel in time to see the data evolve. It can be interesting. So, going back to slides and the Android Wear.
Okay, so I can show it on the phone, on the watch, sorry. On Android Wear, sorry, you have the notion of full screen app.
Lower.
Yeah, this is it's Apple. This is a full screen application. This is what we have developed for this session. You have also the notion of notification. Here is a custom notification. Have you seen? No, it's not clear enough.
Too much light.
With an action that allow you to launch something on your mobile. And what you have, this is the notion of context stream. Sorry, the watch is too powerful for this.
Okay, we're just going to show you.
Yeah, it's better on slide. So the full screen app, notification, you can receive notification on your watch without doing any codes. If your phone is providing you notification, you will receive them on your watch. Custom notification, this is why I have tried to watch you. This is a card. You swap your card and you can have additional action button. And of course, it's a watch, so you can install custom watch faces. Do you have this feature on Apple? Mm-hmm. And there is a guy in France, his name is Jacques Seguela. He says, if you don't have a Rolex by the time you reach 50, then you have clearly failed in your life. Check.
Okay, I admit I would have loved to have that, not to fail my life. And on the Pebble, well, there are just two kinds of apps, really, full-on apps, and you can also integrate in what they call the timeline, which is pretty close to the time travel aspect for the Apple Watch. And you can see on this video, just by interacting with the up and down button from the main watch face, you can navigate in time and see future events, the evolutions of weather, and you can actually inject some data in there, which can be interesting. So let's talk about languages, because after all, we are software developers. And so for the Apple Watch, the main preferred language is Swift. Who has already done any Swift? Okay, be proud of it.
People, yeah.
Don't feel dirty once again. So they do support Objective-C like on iPhones, but it's clearly not the favored way because it will fade away at some point, and Swift has so many features that can be interesting to use for the Apple Watch. So All the APIs, all the sample code that you can find online are all documented in Swift, so it's good to switch to Swift. And for Android Wear, what can we use?
Android Wear, of course, you can use Java. And if you know Java, if you already have developed an Android mobile application, you will be able to create an Android Wear application in a day. So the learning curve is really fast. Or you can use Kotlin, or I never tried it, Groovy or RubyMotion. So you have plenty of languages that support Android Wear.
Yeah, and actually we even forgot that you have also some cross-platform languages like Xamarin and stuff like that.
Exactly. Yeah.
For Pebble, well, it's mostly C. And when I say C, I mean really C, not C++, not C#, just C, with structs, with static methods all the way. Basically, your programs end up being long text files like that. It's awful. Navigating that is just...
Hello world.
Yeah. You can also use Pebble.js. It's a JavaScript framework, but it's more limited because it's just a way for your phone to remotely control your watch. And it's really weird, really limited. But it offers some ease of use, especially when you want to communicate with the internet. So that was for the languages. Let's talk a little bit about the components that you can access. So I won't go into the demo actually. So this is an example. On the right you can see a palette of all the components that are accessible in Xcode, in Interface Builder. They are really specific to the watch, so even the table view, for example, is very specific. If you are used to doing UI table view on iOS, it's not the same at all. This isn't just an example that shows how to initialize a table. There is no delegate, there is no data source. It's just plainly setting the number of items and then configuring each row independently. And yeah, all the components are really specific to the Apple Watch. I won't go into the demo.
So here I'm going to show you what we can do in terms of layout for in Android Wear. So here we have an application, a view that should be displayed on a square form factor or round chin form factor. So everything is done on the layout. So here we have the watch view stub that will allow us to define the sub layout, one for the square model, so it's called rect, but it's square, and one for the round model. So the first one for the square one is the easiest way to do, because you know, it's easy to set the different views, the title, the button, etc. So it's a standard relative layout. So if you know Android development, it's the same thing. By the way, you can deploy the application on a mobile phone. It will work. And for the round one, you have a specific view provided by the wearable API. It's called a box inset layout, and it will help you to set your element in a square to avoid that some text will be hidden by the round layout.
So when they say that watches are supposed to be round, maybe when it was just needles, you know, for digital, doesn't work.
So this is some views that are provided by the wearable API. And
for Pebble, you have the Cloud Pebble editor. UI editor is, once again, it's a web interface in which you can start to you know, tinker and place your components and lay them out. But in the end, it does generate that.
Ooh.
So that's just to place a label with those 4 digits in the middle of the screen. That's it. This is done in just one line of Java or Swift.
And 3 hours.
Yeah. So in terms of internet connectivity, this is really interesting because there are some major differences here. For the Apple Watch, if it works automatically. If your phone is in the neighborhood of your watch and your phone has a good internet connection, then it uses your phone. The requests go through your phone to the internet. If your phone is out of battery, for example, or if it doesn't have a good connection, the watch is connected to the Wi-Fi directly and it can call your APIs directly. So that's really interesting. And all that is transparent for the developer. You don't have anything special to do. You can just use the NSURL session framework, which is the same as on the iPhone, and it does the rest for you. If there is some communication going on with the phone, it's transparent. That's pretty nice and really effective way to program with the network.
With Android, of course, you can pair your watch with your phone using Bluetooth, but you have also a Wi-Fi device integrated in your watch. But don't try to connect to a remote server with your watch through Wi-Fi. It will not work, because Wi-Fi is just a fallback solution if the phone and your watch is outside the Bluetooth range. Yeah.
Okay, so
here just a sample to illustrate that for Smartwatch we have used a retrofit library from Square. So the phone connect to the Devoxx REST API server, and it's just an illustration. I don't think that we have to.
But this is actually on the phone, because only the phone can access the internet. And then you have some setting up to do to connect, but that's just standard Android stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, won't go into that. On the Pebble, well, it's basically the same, except there is no Wi-Fi in the Pebble, so you
have a cable, no?
Yeah, you have to plug your drag like that anyway. And so you have to exchange information with the phone via an API called app message, and I'll show you how cool it is. Actually, if you don't want, so you have two choices. If you have a native app on the phone with the Pebble SDK integrated in it, you can communicate with that. Otherwise, you can also communicate with a JavaScript module that is loaded into the Pebble app on your phone. That means that when you release an app for the Pebble, you have to wait for an update of the Pebble app to have your JavaScript module in it. Very clever. As if the Apple review time was not long enough. Anyway. So you can exchange information with JS module, and then the JS module can connect to the internet using XML HTTP request. And then, of course, the message has to go the other way. So just to show you, I don't expect you to read the code, that's just to show you how complex it is. This is just to send the message from the watch to the phone to pass 3 parameters. And then the phone goes to the internet in JavaScript, comes back, packages all the information in a byte array. Yes, you heard me right. That is a hash map with only integer keys. And then you have to send that back to the watch and interpret it on the other side. So it's really, really cumbersome. And actually, this is one of the reasons why we didn't have time to do the app that we are going to demonstrate on the Pebble. In terms of phone communication, that's where it comes interesting, especially when you need it to go to the internet. There are 4 ways to communicate between the Apple Watch and the iPhone. The first one is using application contexts. This is just a way to synchronize your iPhone app with your Apple Watch app. So every time you send an application context to the phone, it just overwrites the previous one. It's just a sync message. Another way is to use send message, but this only works when your phone app is on and in the foreground. If it's not, then you have to fall back to transferring user info, and this is interesting because it is queued. So if you send messages and the phone is not on, or the app is in the background, for example, it just doesn't process anything, and when you launch the app on the phone, it dequeues everything and processes the messages. So it can be interesting as a pattern. And of course you can transfer files if you have to send some images, or the Titanic movie, if you want to watch the Titanic movie on your watch.
4 hours.
Short interactions. And yeah, this is just an example to show how it works. So you have to check if the session is reachable. If it is, then you can use send message. If it's not, then you use transfer user info. This is just an example actually extracted from the code of the app that we are going to demonstrate.
So on Android, we have some API provided by the Google Play services, and if you know how to use them, you are okay. You can create application and communicate with your phone and vice versa. These API are a message API, data API, and node API. We will illustrate how it's working. Your device, it can be your phone or your watch, has to connect to the Google Play services using a Google API client. To connect to the Google API client, you just have to connect and disconnect on start and on stop method. So it's a really basic principle on Android development. Then if you want to send a message, a one-way message to your phone or your phone to your watch, the better way to do that is using the message API. The message API will send a small payload of information to the remote device. And each devices are identified thanks to the node API. For the message API, your node has to be connected. If the remote node is not available, so it will fail. We will see that there is another way to send message in an asynchronous way. So the send message. So as you can see in this code, we receive what we call the data path and the message payload. The data path will be used to uniquely identify the message that you are sending, and it will be used by the remote device to detect who is sending the message and the meaning of this message. And in the for loop, we broadcast this message to all remote devices.
And then you process the messages.
On the phone, for example, the watch has sent a message to the phone. On the phone, there is a on message received a method that is called, because we are using a wearable listener service. The wearable listener service is used to, in fact, to detect all messages that are sent to the data layer. Something has been received, on message received is launched. And here the code is extracting the message event, parsing the message event, and saying, yes, here I have to retrieve the schedules, I have to send the schedule to the remote device. Yes. The data synchronization is another way to communicate between the devices. Here the difference is that the message that you sent is structured as a data map. And the other advantage is the fact that if the remote node is not online, the message will be persist in a local cache.
Okay.
When the watch will be on, it will receive all the pending messages. So this is a substrate. You will have the slide, you will have the time to review them.
Okay, in terms of caching, it's interesting to consider because once again we are on a watch. It has some limited capabilities in terms of processing power, in terms of battery, and so on. So the less you go to network, the better. So you'd better cache everything. There probably are some more sophisticated mechanisms to cache on the Apple Watch than what we used. But for now, probably the most documented way is to use core data. So you can actually have a database in your watch. Mind blown. So it's pretty complex, core data. It's kind of like Hibernate on iOS, if you want. It works with an SQLite database, usually. But it's pretty complex to set up. And well, this is just an extract of the code. I won't show you a demo of that because we have a lot of ground to cover yet. And on Android, what can we do?
Yes, here we use the data API mechanism to retrieve the data on the cache. For example, for Smartwatch, if we require some information, we're not going to ask the phone, hey guys, give me the list of torches, the list of speakers, etc. And each time the phone has to connect to the remote server. So the first time that we receive the information, the data API will store this data on its own cache. And what we have done on Smartwatch is to say, I have to display the, I don't know, the detail of the talk. So the first step is to check the cache, the local cache. The information is there, so I can display it. It's not there, so I send a message using the message API. And,
so it's a little more advanced. It's more
yeah,
automatic than
exactly.
core data. Okay, we won't go over the demo. Last thing that's important, once you have finished, once you are done developing all that, of course you want to know how you can deploy your application. The Apple Watch, you have the iTunes Connect back office, where you can do everything and you can upload screenshots and upload your binary. Your app, your Apple Watch app is encapsulated in your iPhone app, so you cannot release an Apple Watch app without a companion iPhone app. That's an interesting thing to remember. On Android Wear, I think you can hide it, but we'll talk about it. And so you package the Apple Watch with the iPhone app, you release the iPhone app like any other, you wait for review, and then you wait again, and then you wait some more, and that's the Apple review process. Just for the little story, we submitted Smartwatch for Apple Watch 8, on Friday last week, and it was only accepted on Saturday, right in time. So, on Android Wear?
Yes, it's quite different. So the application has been published and reviewed in a couple of hours. Sorry, just the time to drink a coffee. So before releasing your app on Google Play, there are some warning. You have to be sure that the permission that you have set on the Wear module has been defined on the phone module, otherwise it will not work. And you have also to ensure that the package name and the version that you are using is the same for the phone and for the Wear. When you generate the signed APK, you just have to select the mobile, because the mobile will embed the Wear APK. So this is the structure of an application. You have what we call the companion application. This is the mobile application that contains the APK of the phone and for the wearable.
But you can hide it on Android.
Yeah, for Smartwatch, you have no visible application on the phone. And don't forget that when you are in the publishing wizard, you have to check to set a checkbox. It is lost in the page. It's not quite clear, but you have to say yes. I'm publishing an Android Wear application.
Oh, and if you forget, you have to wait another 2 hours.
2 hours, yeah. Oh, another coffee. And this is the distribution.
So the installation has to go through the phone.
Yeah.
And then the phone installs it
and
on
the
the
phone will
watch.
deploy your application in all of your watches.
Yeah,
so I have three watches. And
that's the same on the iPhone. And on the Pebble, you actually have a Pebble app store that's integrated in the Pebble app, and you can release your apps there. It's pretty easy to do. It's the same principle. You have a web wizard where you can do everything. As I said, the interesting thing is if your app has a JS module that needs to be deployed to the Pebble app, then you need to wait usually a few weeks for Pebble to release an upgrade of their app so that your app can work, and then you can flip the switch. So yeah, there is this option. So let's talk a little bit about Smartwatch. So Smartwatch is this application that we developed specifically for Devoxx. So if you didn't know about it yet, good thing you still have 2 days to use it. It's actually useful, not just for the demo, but also for just browsing the schedule and doing some interesting stuff on your smartwatch if you already have one. So you can go to smartvox.com where you can find some links to download it. By the way, the site is responsive, so it will work with your phones as well. And just to show you how it works, we'll go back there. I'll just show you how it works. So, okay, let's try to leave the screen up. As you can see, there are already some traces. So this is just the list of schedules. Okay, I just received a notification from Spotify. This is just a list of schedules. I can just select today, for example. Okay, it will load. The first time it will load everything in the cache, then it will be faster because the data will come from the database. The talks are color-coded by topic. Okay, what's going on? That's the demo effect, anyway. And you can scroll through all the presentations all the way down. And if you want, you can, of course, select an individual talk. You can see more details, including details for the speaker, just to be sure that you are in the right room. Can be practical. And, of course, from the screen of the talk itself, you can force touch to use the favorite management feature. And when you do that, it actually communicates with the phone to schedule a local notification 10 minutes before the talk starts. So you will receive a custom notification 10 minutes before. So yeah, this is what it looks like on Apple Watch.
On Android, I will use my Moto 360. Yeah. So you have the list of schedules, okay? You choose a day, Wednesday. You can have some information on for example, the keynote. Open keynote, summary, so it's not clear, but it's working, believe me. And the list of speaker, the list of speaker. But on Android Wear, we have a bonus. You can open the Twitter profile on the phone in order to follow the speakers, and it's free. Hold on, there. And you can also, sorry, yeah. You can also, I don't know, I will choose a talk, for example. Add your talk to the calendar, yeah. Okay. If I check here my calendar, but I don't know.
Okay, so when you add a talk to your favorite on the Android version, it's actually stored in your calendar so that you can use the reminders and so on.
It's somewhere like that. It's not practical, but...
Oh, you have an appointment with the dentist tomorrow. Don't forget. Okay, so that was just a small demo. Of course, just a few words for the end. So as we could see, there are some huge inequalities in terms of development platform ease of use. Obviously, Apple took some time to perfect their craft, and I think that's why it took them about a year and a half to release the SDK after the Android Wear thing was out. And it shows, it really shows in terms of development expressiveness. The learning curve is shorter on Android Wear because it's a language that a lot of people know about, the Java language, compared to Swift that a lot of people actually have to learn for the first time. But on the other hand, the tooling support is not up to date on Android. As we said, the palette of components is not adapted yet. There's still a lot of work to be done on Android side, and apparently they're not investing that much time in it. On both platform, documentation is really, really lagging behind. Even on Apple, when they do documentation, they do it well, but it takes time. And not all apps make sense on Smartwatch. That's probably the biggest thing that we want you to take away. Types of apps that work well on smartwatches, everything related to countdowns and timers. So everything related to countdowns and timers, status checks. Okay, what's the temperature now? I think it's okay.
35.
Yeah, in the room, yeah, but outside it's 13 degrees. Okay, everything, related to watching anything, basically. Remote controls, as I said, I developed a Pebble app, for example, to shut my electric shutters at home. Worked very well, because I'm a lazy guy and I didn't want to go on all the buttons. But you can also, integrate it in Internet of Things devices. Every kind of notification responder is a good pattern, and data trackers, of course, especially health data. So if you want to use it to track your runs or every exercise that you have, it can really be interesting. Kinds of apps that don't work on smartwatches, games of any kind. Recently I was really into a game called Lifeline. Don't try it, you will waste plenty of hours. It's really addictive, but it works, kind of works on the Apple Watch. Anyway, but yeah, it's really hard. Any kind of long reading, so news, books, all that doesn't really work. Too much text. Of course, who would buy something from their watch, right? Pay for something, that's the last thing, but buy directly, no. Any kind of video or image viewing, I don't even understand why Apple integrated a component to watch videos on the
Photoshop for where?
That's the future. Okay, and everything that requires any kind of text input, because you don't have a keyboard. You can use your voice sometimes, but it's really cumbersome. Kid, come pick me up. Anyway. Just one more thing. Yeah. So the app that we showed you just now, guess what? It's available on GitHub. So if you want to try it out, if you want to see the code, it's available in black yeah. and in white. So you have the GitHub URL right here, and we are right on time. Yeah. Thanks a lot.
Thanks.